Good evening, everybody. I would like to welcome everybody and call tonight's meeting of the Monroe County Council to order. Today is Tuesday, May 27th, 2025, and the time is 5:02. And I'd like to say for the record, those that are here, council members that are here on the dais, I'll start over here to my right. We have Councilors Henry, Iverson, Deckard, Wilt, and Feidel. And so now we will go ahead for all those that are able-bodied to do so to please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, mic is not moving. We are going to go to item number 3, which is adoption of the agenda. Looks like we do have an amendment for tonight. Auditor's office is asking for us to table item 8G, which is the health department, which was the additional appropriation. Before we do that, just for sake of transparency, because we in government like to throw that out there, I'm gonna look at the auditor, Ms. Gregory, and say, would you like to give an explanation as to why we are tabling this discussion tonight?
Sure, I'm happy to do so. Thank you. Upon review of this item, it was determined that it seems the appropriation being requested is for several leftover awards throughout the years, not just one. So a full reconciliation needs to take place, and permission from those granting agencies needs to be sought prior to moving forward. We also need a new fund number. This is a state fund number, and we need local fund number for that.
Okay, and so, because our understanding for those of us that serve on the Scipio-Travis Grant Committee, that was like $450 that was left over from 2020. So it sounds like there's more.
Yes, I believe. Some of it's Sophia Travis money, some of it is CARES grant funding, and there was one other grant award that is escaping me right now.
Okay, so we will go ahead. Okay, so that is an amendment to tonight's agenda that is being offered is to table item 8G indefinitely to allow the auditor's office to work with the health department to correct those findings. Is there anything else that anybody would like to amend for tonight's agenda? Okay. And now I'd like to say for the record, Councilor Hawk is joining us at the dais, so we have all 7 of us that are here to do good government work. So, all those that are in favor of adopting today's agenda as amended signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. So we have table item 8G indefinitely. Next up, we will go to item number 4, which is public comment. This is for items that are not on the agenda. So if you are here in the Nat U Hill Room, you get to come up to the podium here. You speak for 3 minutes, and you will have a timer that will tell you how long you got, so you can go ahead and speak to items not on the agenda. We like to say here in County Council that all public comment is welcome, the good, the bad, the ugly of all comments. So if you have something that you would like to say again for items not on the agenda, you can come to the lectern here in the Nat U Hill Room. Or if you are virtual, you can raise your hand via Teams, and you will also have up to 3 minutes. So I'll go to the podium here and see if there's anybody that would like to come up. Please don't be shy. And if you come up, I believe there is a sign-in sheet. You just go ahead and sign your name, and you can state your name for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Jay Patel. Good evening, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Jay Patel, and my wife Pina have lived in Bloomington for the last 39 years. We have raised our 3 children here, and all of them went to the elementary school and the university in this town. For us, Bloomington is not just a place, it's a home. We are the owners of the economy and on the south side of Bloomington, tucked away past the Kroger and the high school. It's a family-run business, and it's been our children's home for the last 20-odd years before they went on to make a career out of state. For decades, we've provided housing for Bloomington residents via the trustee township, not just the Perry, but also Bloomington and other locations. We've had construction workers working on major projects for Bloomington and IU that have stayed for extended services. And during the COVID time, many people had difficulties, and that's the time when we took care of quite a few people, which the township, especially Mr. Combs, realizes. On May 16th, a tornado took most of our property, damage to the A-frame, the office, and some side buildings. And some of them are irreparable, but there are three buildings that are still repairable and put back to condition. We've heard several losses from all kinds of personal property and vehicles and so on. And this is the one business I depend on for my income. More than 20 residents have been displaced due to the damage of the apartments that we have. And the town trustee has done all possible to house these people at many different facilities in town. We are doing our best to recover, but cannot do it alone. Today, we're asking for help in two specific ways. Support to quickly reopen parts of the motel with minimal damage, that is the back apartment building, in order to get displaced residents back into housing. Assistance through grants and loans that would help us with repairs and damage of the property, that would be surely appreciated. We're incredibly grateful to the support of friends and neighbors in this past week. Now we're asking for support from our county to help us get back to our feet and continue serving the community. Thank you very much. Another note, I thought I already mentioned to you, some council members, but something surprising was we spent a day and a half gathering all the debris, and many high school kids that were my children's high school friends did all the necessary. And the next morning we were exhausted, waking up to say, okay, now to put it all into the dumpster, when to do. And a young man came by, 6 foot tall, and early in the morning, and he called me, hey, hi, uncle. I said, who are you? And my son stepped out, and so he was his best friend from elementary, high school, and everything else. And he just said, don't worry, I'll take care of it. Next thing you know, he has some massive equipment there, and with grapplers, spent a day and a half to 2 days with people, and completely resolved all my problems in terms of debris, of course. Now the new problems begin, but no problem. Whatever you folks can do to assist, not just me, but there are many other people who need help. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you. Looks like we have another public commenter here. Go ahead and sign in. State your name for the record again, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
My name is Bhaveen Patel. Good evening, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. My father is Jay Patel, and my mother is Pina Patel, who own the Economy Inn on the south side of town. I was actually born and raised there and grew up at the Economy Inn in a small apartment in the back of the office. So I was born and raised in Bloomington, went to elementary school here, Montessori, Trine North, Bloomington North, and then eventually at IU, and live elsewhere. But anytime I come back, Bloomington is home. And we've seen that more than ever from this last week and a half, especially with friends and family coming from California, friends who I haven't spoken to in many, many years, but have come out to support us. My mother and father have always taught us to contribute to society. We do our own thing, but contribute to society and the community. And we've done that with my sisters as well through Habitat for Humanity, through Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, social activities throughout the community. And serving others even at the motel or working there when we were younger and growing up. So seeing the amount of support over this last week and a half, especially for them, seeing the amount of ex-tenants, not even current tenants that have come by just to check on my father and mother to make sure that they're okay, see the property and offer any support has been heartwarming. We've been lucky enough to get by through friends and family and the support of the community and the city, and now we're offering, looking for ways to amplify that and see how we can have the guidance and support to move forward and open the motel and continue serving the community. I think they've done a wonderful and amazing job for 39 plus years, helping many people throughout the community. I'm sure some of them will come to speak in the following weeks. So we're just looking for support of the council, of the city and county and the community to help this place get back up and running, help my childhood home get back up and running, and house as many people as we can in a safe and proper manner. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Tammy Weichel Cassidy, and I'm here kind of speaking about the Clear Creek area, and I really appreciate your giving me the time at the microphone this evening to do this. Seeing the post office get just disintegrated has been a really tough journey for me personally, since my husband and I own the LLC that leases to the post office. And so we're going through some really different types of approvals and things like that, and having to, hire professional engineers and architects to basically redraw that building. And so those kind of additional expenses are going to make it tough for us to meet a recovery budget. But I just want to bring those kind of things to your attention because, boy, I sure am not the only one. I mean, if you drive out on Victor Pike and Stancifer Lane and Ida Lane, it's tough. It's tough to see. So if there's any kind of support that you guys can give, it's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Good evening. Good evening. I actually already signed in, sorry. Good evening. My name is Julie Hardesty, and I'm a resident of Monroe County. Today, I'm giving public comment as a County Council appointed member of the Monroe County Women's Commission. Currently, the Women's Commission's purpose states the Commission shall serve in an advisory role to assist residents, businesses, and the government of Monroe County in addressing issues of gender equity in all aspects of society. As planning moves forward for the new county jail facility, I would like to comment on the Monroe County Sheriff's Office and Jail and Justice Center pre-design report that was released on February 27th. Members of the Women's Commission have reviewed the space plans, and while the decision to increase the overall number of beds to 500 is incompatible with stopping the trend of increased incarceration in our county and reducing recidivism of people penalized more for their circumstances than crimes committed, we do want to acknowledge that this plan includes spaces designated separately for female inmates for detox, bullpen, video arraignment waiting, medical and mental health holding cells and housing units, and an inmate worker dormitory. Alongside that, the plan also includes designated special housing units in both the male and female medical and mental health areas for housing marginalized genders. We want to make notice of those plans and point them out to you all on the County Council so that you can also keep an eye on those designated spaces to ensure that if there are budget cuts that require changes to this plan for a new jail facility, those designated spaces are not part of any cuts and remain in place for the safety and dignity of all people incarcerated in our county jail. The plan also identifies general population housing by number of rooms and beds, but does not make note of any separation or designated areas for female inmates or other marginalized genders. That is 384 of the 500 total beds planned for this facility, and we would encourage more details be made available to ensure that people incarcerated in our county jail who are women and other marginalized genders are ensured the human dignity of being safe in who they are and not further punished for how they present themselves to the world. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. I'm gonna look on Teams and I don't see anybody's hands up currently on Teams. But again, if you are on Teams and you are a member of our public, you also can make public comment, and you can do so by raising your hands via Teams. So look into the audience here in the Nat U Hill room. If there anybody else that would like to make public comment, again, you can come to the lectern here. And then last call for those that are online via Teams. I'll just wait a couple of more seconds and see. And seeing none on Teams, as well as seeing nobody else here in the Nat U Hill room, I will say then that portion of public comment for items not on the agenda has ended. And as just a sidebar note, we appreciate those that came out to, especially those that have been deeply affected by the recent tornado, to come out and speak. We greatly appreciate that, as well as Ms. Hardesty from the Women's Commission as well. All public comment, regardless of whatever you think about public comment, is welcome. That is what good public servants do, is we listen to the good, the bad, and the ugly of that. So we appreciate that. Thank you. Next up, we will move on to item number 5, which is department updates. And departments can give an update, and you can do that up to 10 minutes. So again, if you are a department that is here in person, you can come to the lectern, or you can sit at the table here and you have 10 minutes. And if you are online, you can also raise your hand via Teams. So looking in here, not seeing any movement, and also not seeing any hands raised via Teams as well. We will go ahead and move on to item number 6, which is the consent agenda items.
Council, I move to approve the following consent agenda item for May 27th. A, the Highway Department's request for a category transfer in Fund 1169-0000, Local, Road, and Street, in the amount of $200,000 from the supplies category to the services category. And item B, approval of council summary minutes for April 8th and April 22nd, 2025.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Are there any questions from council? Looking to my left and then looking to my right. Yes, Councilor Hawk.
Not just a question, but as a reminder to the public, the transfer that the Highway Department is making is because of the harsh winter, that they're putting some of the projects on hold. And so this is for more funding for paving projects and the flashing and the trail projects. And that's something I think the public would like to know that they're doing.
Oh, thank you for noting that for the public. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions or comments on consent agenda items? Last call. Okay. And since we are all here, we can do consent agenda items by voice vote. And so all those that are in favor of approving consent agenda items signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries and consent agenda items are approved. Thank you very much. Before we get into our business, I'd also like to note, we've also, if you've paid attention to our packet tonight, we've kind of changed it up a little bit to just kind of have a better flow of the meeting. I know a couple of weeks ago we had a little bit of a marathon meeting here, but in order for us to make sure that we are staying to task, Councilmember Iverson and myself will try to do a really good job in making sure that we are timing ourselves accordingly. We are sticking to the items and asking the questions that are pertaining to the items that are presented to us during that time that particular item is presented. And so again, each department will get 10 minutes to give an update, or I'm sorry, to give their presentation. And so your item or your timer will be listed, thanks to TSD, on the screens here. And once that timer is done in 10 minutes, we will kindly remind you, or we'll give you a warning. And then after it's all said and done and the 10 minutes are exhausted, we will definitely let you know. And then for council colleagues here, we will have about 5 minutes for a Q&A. And I know we do a good job of trying to do a lot of our research ahead of time. But if there's anything that goes beyond that time frame, then I will look to council members to see if this is an item that should be tabled, considering the topic that's at hand. Again, not really trying to tell anybody not what to do here, because I know all 7 of us are all elected. But again, it's to help with the flow of trying to make the meeting more efficiently, and those that are here, we can really do the business and do it in a timely manner. So, is there anybody that has any questions regarding this new procedure? None? Okay. Seeing none, we will move forward. And then we will go on to item number 7, which is an ongoing matter that was an item that was tabled from our last meeting.
Council, as a reminder, this item was tabled from the April 22nd and May 13th council meetings. I move to approve the Board of Commissioners' request in Fund 4914-0000 Showers Building Operating Fund, the creation of account line 30006 contractual, and simultaneously approve an additional appropriation of $2,500 in the services category.
Second.
We got a motion and a second, and I see Mr. Jeff Cockrell is here. And again, lots of conversation that was had at the previous meeting where you sent all of us some information related to what some of us were really asking, and I hope we've all kind of taken the time to digest that over the past couple of weeks. But Mr. Cockrell, would you like to add anything else?
Not much. I think I used my 10 minutes last week, and so, or 2 weeks ago, and so I don't know if there's a whole lot to add other than you asked for the council asked for some information about the corporation, which I believe I sent that night. There were questions about kind of the statutory framework for how building corporations are formed. So I forwarded the memo from bond counsel who handles these kind of things routinely. So hopefully that would address those questions. I have not heard any questions that come back through the council office. So hopefully everybody has a better understanding of what's going on.
All right, thank you. And I'm looking over here to my left at first to see if anybody has any other additional questions for Mr. Cockrell related to this item.
No, I don't have any questions. I am looking, I think everything is included in the packet, everything that you sent to us, so I would just note that should anybody want to understand the answers to the questions we had, that's where they should take a look at.
Councilor Decker.
I'll be quick. I appreciate very much the additional information that was sent. I think this item has been well looked at and reviewed per what the council is tasked with doing, but see no reason that we should delay any longer on the matter simply because I think we got a lot of other things pressing on our agenda other than something that has been in place for some time now.
Thank you. I'm looking over here to my right. If councilors have anything to add? Councilor Hawk?
Yes, I did send a question in to the council office, and they might have tried to answer this, and I'm not seeing it, though they might have. I'm seeing that in the balance, cash balance available is over $20,000. And so I'm trying to figure out why they don't just pay for this out of the fund dollars that they have rather than doing additional. Is there a reason behind that?
I don't handle this funding, so I don't have the answer to that question.
And Kim, I think you were maybe a part of that discussion or heard it. So yeah, maybe you sent me the answer and I missed it.
I was busy working on COLA stuff and didn't see it till last. This is a budget that has not been budgeted. So this is the first and only item to be appropriated. So that's why there's nothing in there and the cash balance is 20,000. So it's not, it doesn't have any other appropriations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? All right. And seeing none, we'll go to public comment. If you have a public comment on this item, please come forward to the lectern here in the Nat U Hill room, or you can raise your hand via Teams. And seeing none, Michelle, may we please have, okay. Now we have a hand. And if you are able to unmute, please go ahead and do so, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Hey, good evening, Council. This is Seth Muchler, a resident of Monroe County. I hesitated to make public comment because actually I had been looking at this item in the packet ahead of time, and I admittedly had missed that it was discussed in a previous meeting. So I'm kind of playing from behind here. But in reviewing the packet, I had some sort of troubles just sort of understanding the function of this corporation and how it sort of all tied in. So my original plan was to ask for some clarification as to the function, but I hear that it may have been discussed in a previous meeting. I did review the information that I guess I'm understanding that Mr. Cockrell sent in, and that information did not really provide the clarification I was looking for, but you may just say that his statement from a few weeks ago may provide the clarification that I was looking for, and that could help resolve the confusion. So thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate all of you. Thanks, bye.
Thank you. All right, if there are no other comment or public comments, then Michelle, can we please have a roll call vote?
Councilor Deckard?
Yes.
Councilor Iverson?
Yes.
Councilor Henry?
Yes.
Councilor Feidel?
Yes.
Councilor Hawk?
Yes.
Councilor Crossley?
Yes.
Councilor Wiltz?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, and I would just tell the gentleman who had public comment, I did not see the memo from the bond counsel in this packet, so maybe if you reach out to the council office, they could forward to that, and I think that would answer his question.
Okay. Duly noted. Thank you so much, Mr. Cockrell.
Thank you.
All right, now we are moving on to item 8, which is the new business of council, and this is coming from the Highway Department.
Council, I move to approve the Highway Department's request in Fund 9106-0000 CCMG, or Community Crossing Matching Grant, the creation of account line 23400 bituminous, and to simultaneously approve an additional appropriation of $1,411,500 in the supplies category.
Second.
All right, Ms. Ridge, welcome.
Good evening. This is basically NDOT provided us the funds through the PO, and now we just need to appropriate it because the roads are being paved as we speak. So we just want to make sure that the funds are allocated so we can pay the invoices.
All right, anybody that has any questions or comments for Ms. Ridge? Mr. Deckard.
I just want to always take an opportunity when Lisa Ridge is here to praise her ability to have the hot hand with the state in bringing these dollars home. And they do so much towards the paving and other projects, and it's just huge. So thank you so much.
Appreciate that, and I'm sure we'll be asking for the help and the assistance in 2026. So remember that at budget time. We could not actually participate in this program without that assistance. We would not have the budget to be able to match these funds, so we appreciate it.
I will just go down the line, and I'll go down to Mr. Iverson.
I ask this question sometimes, and so for the public that wants to know when their road or their street is going to be paved, where would they find that information?
They can contact us at any time. We usually list our roads. Sometimes our paving program gets adjusted, and it did this year. Basically, after the harsh winter, we had to eliminate some roads, and then we had to add some roads that were completely demolished in the winter months. We don't ever promise that anybody's going to get their road paved until we have it awarded and done because of those circumstances. We keep a list of every request for paving. We wish we could pave more, but they can contact us. We put all the requests into the list, and then we evaluate them each year for the paving program. Again, it's subject to change depending on the weather, tornadoes. It all comes out of one budget. Yeah, they can reach out to the Highway Department anytime, see if they're on the list. see if they're on we've already started our 2026 list. But we're happy to help inform the public anytime.
Great. I would say that's the number one of the top requests I get is how do I get my street on the list?
Absolutely, it is.
Yep.
It's hard to explain. I usually give some examples of roads that we've chosen to be paved, so they could go and look at the condition of those. And we also have to follow an asset management plan that's submitted to LTAP, and it's guided by the state, where all the roads are graded a certain number, 1 through 10. And we have to go through a training now for that. So that's coming up, but I think we do a good job of justifying what we choose to pave. Has nothing to do with property taxes or what you pay with property taxes. It has nothing to do with petitions. It's the need of the road and the condition of the road at the time.
Well said.
Councilor Henry.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Lisa, as always. I had a chance to speak with the Steinsville Town Council President, Richie, last week, Richie Carter, and they're very excited about the roads being under construction and torn up today. So I look forward to seeing all the good work up there. And I mean, it's putting a whole new grid down. It's really great. So it matters very much for our rural spaces. So thank you for that.
Oh, no problem. Glad to help them. I'm glad they got their award and everything. So,
Councilor Hawk.
Yes, can you tell us where they might look to see what roads are going to be included in this particular one?
I think we have that online. We have a different procedure right now for posting on the website, and we go through the IT department. It might list community crossing roads. We also have a second list out right now that we're actually open bids on this Thursday. So we have some more roads to add to it, but I'll make sure all those roads that are awarded are listed on the website.
Thank you.
All right. And again, just want to say thank you for all the work that you all are doing in the light of the recent tornado cleanup as well. That should definitely go without mention because you all put some major hours in. So just want to make sure that, I know I said it at the department head meeting last week, but there's nothing also wrong with saying that publicly. So we appreciate all the work that you and your staff are doing with that. And congratulations on being awarded the grant. You're very welcome. All right. Anybody that wants to make public comment on this particular item, you can raise your hand via Teams or you can come forward to the lectern here in the Nat U Hill room. And seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Henry,
Yes.
Counselor Feidel,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
All right. Thank you. Now we move on to item B, emergency management.
Council, I move to approve the Emergency Management Department's request in Fund 4938-9624 Emergency Management Duke Grant, the creation of account line 22630 supplies, and to simultaneously approve an additional appropriation of $15.40 in the supplies category.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. And I see Mr. Justin Baker is on virtually. Hello.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Yes, so in 2023, the Council approved and appropriated this due. It was for $5,500. And it was to purchase weather radios for the residents who needed a roaming source. So currently we have $15.40 left over for this grant, and we are just requesting the approval of appropriation to close up this grant for 2023.
Thank you. And looking over here to my right and seeing if anybody has any questions on this item for Mr. Baker. Seeing none. And then looking over here to my left. Yes, Councilor Wiltz.
Yes, I think this might just be a quick question for the auditor, but what's involved in an appropriation to close out a grant? What does that, translate that, please?
I didn't work directly with Mr. Baker on this. However, it sounds like he's just trying to utilize the remaining little bit of grant funding. And so appropriation will allow that permission to spend.
on something besides what we said we would spend it on before, right?
If the granting agency has to approve, obviously.
Right, okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else anymore? All right. All right, and so if anybody has any public comment on this item, again, please come forward to the lectern here in the Night U Hill room or raise your hand via Teams. Seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk? Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Henry?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Feigl?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you. And now we will move on to item C.
Council, I move to approve the Emergency Management Department's request in Fund 4938-9624 Emergency Management Duke Grant, the creation of account line 22630 supplies, and to simultaneously approve an additional appropriation of $15.40 in the supplies category.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Mr. Baker, anything to add to this?
No, this was just the 2024 grant, and it was for a total of $4,000. So we just had the $6.45 left.
All right. And I'll look over here to my left and see if anybody has any questions on this item. No. And looking over here to my right, Mr. Iverson.
I believe that I misread the motion, and it looks like item C, the additional appropriation is not $15.40, but it is $6.45. And I believe the account line should be 20011. Should I just reread the motion here? I'm going to reread the motion. Council, I move to approve the Emergency Management Department's request in Fund 4938-0000, Emergency Management Duke Grant, the creation of account line 20011, other supplies, and to simultaneously approve an additional appropriation of $6.45.
I see that as a friendly amendment and second.
Thank you, Mr. Deckard.
Thank you very much for that. Just doing a little cleanup there. All right. Any other or any questions here from right? All right, seeing none, we will go to public comment. Again, if you have public comment on this item, you can raise your hand via Teams or you can come to the lectern here in the Night U Hill room. And seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Henry?
Yes.
Counselor Feigl?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you. And again, just like we told the Highway Department, you all have been in the thick of it with emergency management since almost 2 weeks ago. So we appreciate all the work that you're doing, you and Jamie both, in trying to clean up in the aftermath of the recent tornado. So we appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Now we will move on to item D, which is from the Probation Department.
Council, I move to approve the Probation Department's request in Fund 9143-0000 JDAI Coordination, the creation of new account lines as outlined on the agenda, and to simultaneously approve additional appropriations of $5,150 in the supplies category and $9,850 in the services category for a total appropriation of $15,000.
Second.
Thank you. And now we have Mr. Anthony Williams here to give his presentation. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm back for our annual grant from the DOC for our JDI, or Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative. This is one of 3 grants that we received. This one in particular is going to focus on office supplies, licensing for our computer systems. Every juvenile that we have contact with gets a survey sent afterwards to them where they can provide feedback. That allows us to work with IU on that. And then just committee and work group meetings for this one.
Thank you. And looking over here to my left and seeing if anybody has any questions for Mr. Williams. Nope. Looking to All right, anybody?
Just big thank you for
Councilor
taking
Hawk.
time to talk with me today. I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. I guess I did have one quick question. So I know this is for 25, 26. Is there any word that Fund and Beyond after this will continue to get cut?
A word at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed that that will not happen. Okay. Thank you very much for that. And congratulations. Anybody that has public comment on this item, you can come forward to the lectern here in the Nat U Hill room or raise your hand via Teams. And seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Henry,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Feidel,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard. Motion passes unanimous.
And we will go to item E.
Council, I move to approve the Probation Department's request in Fund 9145-0000 JDAI programming, the creation of new account lines as outlined on the agenda, and to simultaneously approve additional appropriations of $18,840 in the supplies category and $31,160 in the services category for a total appropriation of $50,000.
Second.
All right.
And same thing here, but this is where the bulk of our community work comes in. You'll see that we have partnerships with PALS, the Parent Project, through Family Solutions, our truancy termination program at YSB, and the warehouse as well. So a lot of great work that we're doing in the community with these grant dollars.
Very good. Thank you. Yes, Counselor Hawk.
Yes, regarding the money for PALS, do you know how that's going to work out now that they've?
Don't have a great answer at this point. I think it's kind of a wait and see as to how they repair, and we might have to make some adjustments to the MOU and how that, but hopefully we'll be able to go on, carry forward at some point during the year.
So the public will know what we're talking about. You want to describe what PALS is?
Yeah, so it's the People and Animals Learning Services. I had to look down to make sure I get the acronym right. But we send youth-involved individuals and non-youth involved individuals to their programming, and they provide services to any of the referrals that we make to kind of help youths and families that are struggling at home.
Okay. Anybody over here to my left got any questions? Counselor Wiltz.
You've got 3 agenda items here.
Yes.
So on one of these, I just have to say that it's a pleasure to see this type of funding continue. And I really appreciate all the work that you're doing in not only getting the money and continuing that funding into our county and doing such good work, but also the reporting that I know that goes along with it. It's a lot and it's important. And I noticed that you shared an annual report of all kinds of things. So we have our reading here for the next few days anyway, it looks like. But I just wanted to say thanks and let you know that we do appreciate it.
Thank you. As many of you probably already know, Christine McAfee, she does all the work behind this. I'm just the face up here today.
I did have a quick question. So in the spirit of collaboration and being the Cats TV nerd that I am, I like to watch other government meetings. And I noticed one of the city commissions had said that they partnered with you all and were supported by the JDAI grant. But I was actually surprised to hear them say that that was no longer a thing. Do you know anything about that?
I don't. I know that we've had partnerships, but I can't speak as to why they're not a part of it this time. That would be a question for Christine.
Okay.
But I can try and get you an answer for sure.
I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Seeing no other questions or comments from Mr. Williams, I will ask if there are any public comment that would like to make public comment on this item. Please come forward to the lectern here in the Nat U Hill room, or you can raise your hand via Teams. And I see a hand raised via Teams. And it looks like it's from Miss Linda Brady. We can't hear you.
Almost.
Oh no, it sounds like we can hear you because the caption is picking it up, but it's very faint. Maybe try again. It's still a little wonky on our end. Miss Brady, we still can't hear you. TSD, is there anything we can do to help Miss Brady on her end?
Like she just wanted to be a cheering section for her team.
Yeah, I wanted to give her an opportunity to do that. So,
Yes.
okay, all right. Well, we will move on. I see fingers waving and hands waving, so I'm going to take that as a good hurrah. That's the new emoji. She's the live emoji for her team. So we appreciate that. All right, with all the spirits that we have here, Michelle, can we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Feidel,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Henry,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson. Motion passes unanimous.
Great. And again, we got one more item with the probation department, which is item F.
Council, I move to approve the probation department's request in Fund 9176-0000 JDAI data analysis, the creation of account line 30006 contractual, and simultaneously approve an additional appropriation of $10,000 in the services category.
Second.
All right, Mr. Williams, anything to add here?
No, Counselor, or I guess, yes, Counselor Wiltz commented about our annual report. For those that didn't get a copy, that's always on our website for access. But these $10,000 directly go to help in that data analysis of that annual report to give you the data that we do.
Thank you for that explanation. Looking over here to my right to see if anybody has any other questions or comments, and seeing none, and looking to my left and seeing none. All right. If you public have anything to say about this particular item, again, you can come forward to the lectern here in the Nightingale Hill room or raise your hand via Teams. Seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Feidel,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Henry,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Williams. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right. Since item 8G again was tabled indefinitely, we will move on to the courts. Item H.
Council, I move to approve the court's request in Fund 4018-0000 Court Interpreters, the creation of account line 33052 Certified Interpreters, and simultaneously approve an additional appropriation of $6,500 in the services category.
Second.
All right. We got a motion and a second. I see Miss Lisa Abraham is here. Welcome.
There. Every year I get a court interpreter grant, and our time frame now goes July 1st to June 30th. I received last year and came before you to appropriate a $10,000 grant. Unfortunately, that only lasted me 3 months. So I have to wait till 3/4 of that time is done. So once April, I very quickly, I think on day one, applied for an emergency grant. They approved me for an additional $6,500, which is for basically for May and June, and then I'm waiting to find.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to keep
Okay, so I'm here tonight for the $6,500 to appropriate, and I have an invoice ready to be submitted for half of that just for the month of May.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask a quick question since you just mentioned it, and then I'll look to council colleagues here. Do you know when you will know if you'll be awarded?
They usually give it to me about the middle of June because it goes into effect July 1st. So, and I applied for that one on the first day it became available. So I'm impatiently waiting.
Fingers crossed. Hopefully, mid-June, you'll have some good news for us.
Should be back before you, hopefully, in July
Yeah.
to appropriate that.
Appreciate that. Yes, Councilor Hawk.
Yes, the grant normally comes from the state,
Yes.
and is that a part of the money they get from the feds, or you don't know?
I don't think it has anything to do with the feds, but
Okay.
who knows what, if they're going to cut that drastically, but they still allowed us to apply for it this next time, so.
Right, I don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, last year I asked for, I think, 25,000 and I got 10. This year, because of how much I've spent, I've asked for about 45,000. So I have 3 jury trials coming up, and each one will be about $8,000 for just interpreter bills. So.
Eye on that and see if you need an additional along the way, what you've had to do.
Right, exactly. So I did on day 1, so.
All right. Any other colleagues over here that have any questions or comments for Ms. Abraham? Okay. Looking to my left. Anybody? All right. Again, we will go to the public for this particular item. Any comments to be made on this, please come forward to the lectern here in the Nat U Hill Room, or you can raise your hand via Teams. All right. And seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Fidel,
Yes.
Counselor Henry,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you. All right. And just a point of clarification, I think that Mr. Deckard has something to say.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to really quickly, point of clarification for council, Linda Brady, I had a chance to reach out to her briefly, and she simply wanted to thank Christine McAfee, who does all that hard work on that JDAI efforts so joyfully. If anyone's ever sat through a presentation, she wanted to thank her for that. So thanks, Christine McAfee, on behalf of Linda Brady and, of course, all of us.
Thank you for that clarification. All right. Next, we will move on to county council business. And that is item A. It looks like we have some unfinished business from 2 weeks ago that we need to clear up.
Council, as a reminder, this is the second reading of Ordinance 2025-14 due to the lack of a unanimous vote at the May 13th council meeting. I move to approve Ordinance 2025-14, readopting procedures for awarding community service grants.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second, and I'm going to look over to Ms. Molly Turner King for her insight.
So I wasn't going to display the ordinance unless you would like me to, but this ordinance was presented to Sophia Travis. We talked through it. Actually, this ordinance was not presented to Sophia Travis. We talked at the Sophia Travis meeting about what they would like to see as criteria for a citizen appointment, and it also adds how the appointment process would occur.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments related to this item? And I'm looking over here to my left. No? We're quiet tonight. All right, looking over here to my right, Councilor Hawk.
Yes, while I appreciate that this is a very important thing to many people in the community, something that once happened without all of the staff time, we seem to have tried to make a book out of trying to figure out how to make it harder to get through this, and I don't think it should be this difficult. But if you all like all these rules, go for it.
I guess my question to you would be, because I'm confused as to why you mentioned a book. Can can you clarify what you mean by that?
Right, I sure can.
Thanks.
You know, in the past, this used to be done actually in the commissioner's office. Yours Kiesling did most of it, and it was just boom, and we all looked at it, and we said yes or no, and went forward. Now it's like set up and with meetings after meetings and staff time and more staff time. And it's right in the middle of a budget session. And it's like, well, they couldn't get the budget stuff done because they were spending all this time on this Sophia Travis grant things. And so I think it should be easier for the public to apply and easier for this council to make a decision and just not drag this on forever. I mean, it is. But like I said, if you all feel better about a zillion rules for it, go for it. But I just think it should be easier to do.
Okay. And as a point of clarification, it is, I would think that it is easier for us to do because we, have not ever been in the history in my 4 years, and maybe I'm a novice, but I've only been here for 4 years. The idea of this is a history that we've had 11 people to apply to be on a really good social service committee to do this work. And so I think we on Sophia Travis, myself, Mr. Decker, and Ms. Feidel are trying to make sure that we are doing things in a more transformative and transparency kind of matter, because again, we've not had this, not trying to add on anything. And of course, in our Sophia Travis meetings, if you watch those, and you can go back and watch those via CATS and look at our notes, we are trying to make sure that we're doing this in all ways possible, and it doesn't seem to take up the time of council staff. At least I don't want to put the words in the mouth of council staff. And I'm sure, like, as chair of that committee, we make sure, and I definitely make sure that we are not spending extra time on that, and they will definitely tell us if we are. So again, I definitely, with everything happening at the State House and how everybody is having to shake up things and spend extra time looking at things, I think this is a time where this is okay. So that's all I got to say on that. The other aspect to this is, at the last particular meeting that we had on this, since this was an item that didn't get unanimous consent, and that's why it's back again, we talked about having a committee to interview, because there are lots of people that are have applied again and need to be interviewed. So I think from my understanding at the last meeting, Ms. Turner King, can you refresh our brain and of what we did there? That was many moons ago, it feels like.
So if the ordinance passes, it calls for 3 volunteers to conduct the interviews. So it's not a formal committee, but it would be 3 volunteers. So if the ordinance passes, then the president would request 3 volunteers to begin the interviewing process of the 11, maybe 10 applicants. I think one person might have withdrew her application.
Yeah, I do recall seeing that. Okay. And so I also believe, was it you, Councilor Iverson, that said that you volunteered yourself to the Tribune for this?
I feel like I readily volunteered myself.
Appreciate that. And then I think our other 2 Sophia Travis Grant Committee people members, Councilor Decker and Feidel, are you all still good to go with doing this?
Good to go.
Okay. Again, once we are done with this, we can move on and appoint and do the business of Sophia Travis and go forth and do good work in the county. Councilor Wiltz.
The way I read this, it means that every person who submits an application will get an interview. Is that correct?
There's no language in here that specifies whether all applicants would be interviewed or if the 3 volunteers would select a number of applicants to volunteer or to interview. The only language is that the president of the county council will select 3 volunteers to conduct the interviews.
So who decides who gets interviewed?
That would be, well,
Right now, it just says conduct interviews. If you'd like to add language to allow the volunteers to select who gets interviewed, or if all volunteers or all applicants are going to be interviewed, I can add that language.
Wilson, other people, if you have any questions, I've got some hands raised over here. I'll go to Councilor Iverson and then Councilor Henry next.
I want to note that per council rules, the time has now gone to 0. So I want to encourage us to be as short as possible in the remainder of the conversation, or I think that we'll be introducing another tabling vote.
Okay, and I would not be interested in tabling this because we got some work to do. So, Councilor Henry.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm supportive of what we've done here. I think that as I survey other boards and commissions in the county and how people find their way to them in terms of appointments, it is opaque. And this is, while 7 pages, thorough and a good starting block for us to funnel into how we add members of the community to this board. I will say I am a little lost in how we did the appointment process last week. I think my name was evoked last week as one of the interviewees, but I'm totally fine with passing that back to the other council members there as we're sorting through that. My only question is one that I thought that maybe Councilor Wiltz and I shared about the document about assuring or reviewing for the diversity of the board. I think it's not lost on us in the county that the overall diversity of our boards and commissions is not as robust to say in the city limits when we compare our partners in the city limits for boards and commissions. And so I know, Ms. Turner-King, you had mentioned some reticence when we talked about it last week. Have you found anything in the past 2 weeks to add that would allow us to put language in here to encourage the committee to appoint folks from a diversity of backgrounds?
Still have legal pause, I guess, on adding any diversity language, but I guess that pause is somewhat fact dependent on what language you specifically want to add. If it's just an encouragement to the individuals conducting the interviews to consider diversity factors, I think that's fine. But if you want to get into defining what factors, what diversity looks like on this committee, that's where I begin to have pause, because I think, one, it's going to limit your applicant pool. What if we have only one applicant and they don't meet the diversity requirements? And then I think once we get into defining, like, you have to be within this age or this gender or race, that's where I seriously pull back on a legal pause.
Well, I'll just say, and I'll defer to my other colleagues that had a question about this, that while I'm sure that some may feel that the zeitgeist has changed on encouraging diversity, equity, and inclusion in our boards and commissions outside of this county, I don't think that's a line that we've crossed here in Monroe County anyway. And so to the extent that we can encourage that in the resolution, I'm for it. I just don't have those words tonight, but I would defer to my colleagues that might have some different ideas about it. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Looking over here as we wrap up the conversation, Councilor Decker.
I don't have a comment on that other than to say, I think if I recall the list of applicants that had come in, I did see a breadth of different life experiences here in the community. And certainly if I were an interviewer, I'm looking at that in addition to the qualifications that have been listed in this resolution. I did want to say really quickly, I think it's very important for us to adopt this resolution because many of these recommendations came from discussions with current citizen appointees as part of that discussion. And I think tonight we saw a really good example of another commission, the Women's Commission appointee, coming in to offer expertise and thoughts on a procedure that the county's undergoing with our Judicial and Justice Center. And that is precisely the kind of thing that you want to see happening in a community like this. I think that the fact that we have so many applicants for this current year also is a healthy sign, and that we're turning the course. These boards and commissions can't just be things that people run on and then we forget about that. They have to be things that have true citizen input, like what you saw up at the podium, like what you're seeing with this resolution, et cetera. And I think that we're starting to get there.
Thank you. Councilor Wiltz, would you like to share your thoughts?
I think that I'll be very quick because I know we're over time. I'm probably not going to support this just because it doesn't address the concerns that were expressed at the last meeting and by me. And I think if we're going to put something together, it should try to reflect the need for, considering diverse points of view and, that's it.
I understand where you're coming from. I guess the only thing I'll say as we wrap up on this particular item here is, in terms of if people are going, I would just say as council president and as chair of the Sophia Travis Grant Committee, if we can do interviews for folks, and I would assume that would be up to the interview committee to figure out if, people can do it in a hybrid approach where people could come either in person or virtually to make sure, because if folks have taken the time to fill out an application, I just want to make sure that we are taking the time to interview and look at those qualifications, and not saying that those interviews have to do or be a long time. I myself in my other day job do this on a regular basis, and I know it can be done in a 3-person committee with a lot of applicants, so it can be done. So I thank those that are volunteering to the Tribune to help with this, but that would just be my only word of advice to my colleagues here, and also to take into consideration the different viewpoints that we have, because there is a vast majority of people that are highly qualified to do this. So so I'm good on that. All right, so if anybody has any public comment on this particular item, you can raise your hand via Teams, or you can come forward to the Nat U Hill room here at the lectern here. And seeing no movement in the room and looking at Teams and not seeing any hands raised, may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Feidel?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
No.
Counselor Wills?
No.
Counselor Henry? Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Decker?
Yes.
Motion passes majority 5-2.
Thank you very much. Now we will move on to another item that was tabled regarding the KSA conversation, which is item B.
Council, as a reminder, this item was tabled from the May 13th council meeting. So I today move to approve Resolution 2025-24 regarding a pause of the knowledge, skills, and abilities procedures.
Second.
Great, we got a motion and a second, and I'm gonna look at the dream team table over here. Michelle and Miss Molly Turner King, would you like to add anything to this conversation?
All I will add is, as a reminder, this resolution ultimately, if passed, will temporarily suspend the knowledge, skills, and abilities practice or policy so that department heads may no longer submit for consideration a request to hire applicants at the 3 or 8 year level, salary level. It will make it so that any applicant hired is going to be hired at the minimum base salary as identified in the salary ordinance.
Okay. And I know we had a lot of conversation about this, and we got some items that were sent to us via staff. So I'm going to look over here to my left to see if anybody has any questions or comments. Seeing none. Looking over here to my right, Councilor Iverson.
I remain in favor of this resolution. I think that this is something that we've discussed at length to signal to our colleagues and partners in county government that we are facing incredibly strong fiscal headwinds and that we are taking this very seriously. I also think that this resolution is written in such a way that the temporary nature of it signals that we will get through this and that we're going to get through this together. For those two reasons, I am in support of this resolution.
Okay.
Councilor Henry.
I think Councilor Hawk had her hand up.
Both of you raised it up at the same
Okay,
time.
all right, sorry.
Oh, no. We're
Didn't
just
see
going
into
to
my
go down
tunnel
the
vision
line.
today.
It's okay.
I guess my only follow-up question from commentary last week is we had some discussion back and forth about some additional columnar data about some of the specifically some of the KSA positions that if people had come in at a higher level and then had left county service, and I'm sorry, they're just all escaping me right now, but Ms. Turner King, you had my questions from last week. Did you have additional data points to share on this from our due outs from the last meeting?
I've requested Michelle to share data that our employee services put together, and that I think all council members received in advance of tonight's meeting, and I think that might address your questions.
We'll check for it, given we had a tornado between the meeting and the last time. But yeah, I'm not blaming the tornado, but I may have missed it. But let me take a look. Thanks.
Okay. Councilor Hawk, I know you had your hand up. Would you like to add to the discussion?
Well, I just wanted to reiterate something that, we're paying for financial advice, and his advice was to put things on pause. And so that's why I support, let's pause this and see where we're going to be, because we still don't know what our projected revenue is going to be for next year. So.
Okay. Councilor Wiltz?
By that logic, it seems as though we would consider a hiring freeze entirely, but we're not doing that, right?
Correct. Councilor Henry.
Yeah, thank you. Michelle, are you able to put the Excel up, the Excel that has the extra data on it, that's the KSA employment data, just so we can take a look at that? And while that's coming up, I agree with the sentiments of Councilor Hawk and Councilor Iverson that I'm in favor of the resolution. I just think that having the data in the public eye here will help to make that case clear for folks. As I'm looking at that top, or the hires per year, I think that tab. Yeah. Hires per year. Okay, maybe I have a different, if you scroll down to the employment data as a 5/20/2025, that one. Yeah, so like we're on pace right now where 2025, the number of KSA's percentage of hires is 38%. I mean, this will definitely throttle where we are for the remainder of the year. It seems like there seems to be a trend line here of quite a few KSA hires in this year versus previous. I think it's just worth taking a look at there as we're taking a vote. But thank you, Madam President.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else to add to this discussion regarding KSAs? Michelle, Ms. Turner King, would you like to add anything? Okay. Councilor Decker.
I remain still a little skeptical that this is the fruit that we're looking for in our dilemma. And I also worry a little bit, I appreciate this data very much. I also worry a little bit that a high number on that 38% is indicative of a high need. And I always go back through the history and context that come from past service, but I can remember a time during the pandemic when we struggled mightily around retention. The word retention bonus was literally a thing that came out of this council. We were in here and they were trying to take down the tree, I think, for the year, and we were still trying to figure out how to keep employees. And I don't know anything solidly, but I worry just a little bit that we may not get the fruit that we need, and we may start cutting, as we used to say when I was a kid, we're cutting the fingernails to the quick around the wrong area to cut. So I appreciate the sentiment of trying to figure it out. I'm just not sure I'm a yes on this one.
Okay. Anybody else have any last comments regarding this item?
So just to ask a question then for Councilman Deckard, would you be then in favor of keeping the KSA so that people could get higher wages hiring in? What are you saying?
Well, what I'm saying is, when I see that number, they're using it for a reason. I mean, we had, how many did we have last meeting? 3 to 4 KSAs. And I'm not saying that's indicative that of anything other than they're using this to attract people. I mean, literally in the last budget year, what we heard from our prosecutor, and Beth Hamlin's here, so correct me if I got it wrong, shake your head vigorously no if it's the case, but she essentially said she can't hire an attorney to prosecute the cases before the community. The sheriff often is in here on various things saying he's trying to find the best deputy. I worry that this KSA is not going to give us the budgetary fruit, and it's going to hurt the hiring ability leverage that our department heads have. And we've spent so much time around that over the years, since at least 2019, me sitting here, that I worry that this is not quite the fruit. As Councilor Hawk often says, I'll follow the will of the council, but I'm probably a no on this resolution, although I appreciate the sentiment. Sorry to go so long.
No, but it is temporary. Have I got that right?
This resolution
is a temporary resolution.
Yes.
So it could be brought back, right? So maybe there might be value in thinking about doing it. And then if you have trouble, then bring it back and try to do something else. Or is there not value in that?
I would be in favor of, again, kind of going back and listening to a lot of different things. And it looks like our council attorney had her hand up.
So I was just going to say that the resolution does automatically expire the end of December of 2025 unless amended prior to that date by the council.
So basically what we're saying is if there is a vote today that expresses that we will pause KSA, the resolution is set just like other resolutions that we've done earlier this year, will set to expire at the end of this year unless if we do this, we pause it, and we find that departments are having issues with trying to hire people, we can revive this and bring this back.
You could either amend it to end it earlier, you can extend it, or you could just leave it to sunset in 2025.
Okay. Councilor Henry.
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate where this conversation is going, because ultimately one variable here is if we, in a few weeks, once we start taking a look at the local income tax from the state and how we're going to be able to use that or not in the next year, that may give us the strategic pause to get over to say, look, based on forecasting, we might actually be in better shape than what we thought we were going to be in January. And so passing of this today does not, in my mind, mean that it is the rest of the year. It means that we're buying some time until we really understand our fiscal forecast, which I know is going to require at least some adjustments from the State House to fix anyway before we get into what we think the LIT is going to provide us locally. So I'm okay with buying time and very okay with revisiting this resolution once we have more clarity. So thank you, Madam President.
Yeah, thank you. And the only thing that I would add to that before we move on to public comment is the fact that, again, in the Long-Term Finance Committee, he did express the concern of us continuing on to do this. Again, this isn't something that is set in stone. If that is the will of the council that we do this and this gets passed where we pause this. But if again, the state is leaving us no choice to figure out what we can do, and we might do this and we might say, hey, this isn't something that is working. And again, as it was discussed, we can, possibly bring this back for an amendment. Again, we got to figure out stuff because the state is basically leaving us alone at this point. So that's all I would say to that. So All right, so I'm gonna go to public comments, and we got a hand that is already raised. So again, if you have a public comment on this particular item, you can come forward to the lectern here in the Nat U Hill room, or you can raise your hand via Teams. And since we already have a hand raised via Team, and I see it is our prosecutor that has her hand up, I'll have you unmute and you can go ahead and speak.
Thank you so much. Erica Oliphant, prosecuting attorney. I really appreciate the council being good stewards of our public funds. I don't envy the positions that you're placed in right now. But I really would beseech you to reconsider getting rid of the KSA. I understand this is a pause. I understand that you mean for it to be temporary, but this ability has allowed me to hire deputy prosecutors with experience. They don't often need to be trained in the law, but they just have to be trained in the local culture and policies. The person that you approved for me 2 weeks ago has already demonstrated an abundance of skill in trial with jury selection, is already serving as a mentor to younger prosecutors in my office, and this is week 3 of that person's employment. This is not a dollar for dollar value. I mean, I just can't, I can't get by with paying people less than they're worth. And unfortunately, I'm still doing that even when I do get approved for KSAs, because state attorneys are paid much more than county attorneys, unfortunately. And I understand that's just because they're in a different fiscal position. Council's been really generous to me to hear me out. But it's just so difficult to prosecute a very complicated sex case, a very complicated drug case, homicide, crime of violence, anything like that, when you're straight out of law school and you've never seen the inside of a courtroom. And so it really puts a huge burden on those of us who do have experience when we have so many newer people trying to handle these caseloads. I've had a lot of experienced attorneys apply and balk at the entry-level salary. I just will, we will have less experienced folks working in the office if we're stuck. And I'm kind of panicking at the moment because I have a deputy prosecutor leaving. Her last day is June 13th. I've got to replace her, and I'm not going to be able to offer a KSA, it sounds like. And that person's in a very important caseload, the juvenile delinquency caseload, that really works hard with the Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative to make sure that we're using restorative justice and alternatives to juvenile incarceration. And it just takes somebody who knows something about the system and the law to really do that effectively and to implement the sort of policy that I think we want to see in this county. It's just going to take a lot more supervision and handholding if I can't offer a higher salary to somebody with more experience. But I appreciate your time. You listened to me a lot last week, and I'm almost out of my public comment time. So thank you so much, and good luck with the coming year. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Anybody else that would like to make a public comment on this? Again, you can raise your hand via Teams, or you can come to the lectern here in the Nat U Hill room.
Can I still speak, or our time up here?
I'll allow it, as long as we don't have anybody else, I will default to you, and then we'll move on to a roll call vote.
I know Erica mentioned, or the prosecutor mentioned, that she's wanting to hire one, it seems, with that ability. I wondered if there was a way to get any clarification of any more needs that she thinks she might have upcoming.
And I guess that other question to council staff is, do we have any more people in the pipeline asking for KSA requests?
No, we do not.
Okay. Right. Well, now that we've heard all that we've heard and exhausted conversations regarding this, we got a hard decision to make. So can we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
No.
Counselor Feidel,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
No.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Henry.
Yes.
Motion passes majority 5-7. Or 5-2, sorry, 5-2.
So that means that we are officially in a KSA pause unless we find it a need for the council to bring it back for an amendment. Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to item C. This is the COLA conversation that we tabled at our last meeting. And this was a time for council staff to prepare the percentage versus the flat rate data that we all have been given in front of us today. And so I'm going to pass it over to Michelle to see if she would like to provide a brief overview of what we have in front of us.
Okay, I sent two, and it's included in the packet, the fiscal impact estimates. Council approved for 2025, $41,155,881 in salaries. If council goes with a percentage of 3%, and this is based on our CPI from December, that would cost $41,969,095, or a difference of $813,214. If you did a flat rate of $2.28, it would cost $42,153,329, which is a difference of $997,448. The fiscal impact, which is what I let me pull that up. What I did was I went through all of our personnel, found out where they're at currently, where they're being paid, and then I attached them to the classification with regards to their step increase for next year. So, as you can see, this is a 35-hour grid, and I'm looking at the Comet Bs. We have 10 people at the 1 year, 16 at the 3 year, 6 at the 8 year, 2 at the 14, and 4 at the 20 year. And then it's going to cost, just for that one classification right there, is $1,737,636. If you slide over with the same numbers, here's the flat rate at a 35-hour, so which is $1,827,000. So I tried to give you the best guess based on the information that I currently have of how many people we have where and what it will cost overall based on last year what we budgeted for salaries only. This does not include perf, and it does not include FICA. This is just straight salaries.
Okay, thank you. to council staff for doing all of that. That's a lot of work to put together. So we definitely needed that. So thank you, Michelle and Ms. Mosier, for putting that all together. Look into the gallery here and trying to look at my colleagues to see if anybody has any questions. I'm gonna start over here with Councilor Iverson.
So my first question after seeing the spreadsheet that was sent out, which again, thank you, that's a lot of work that you and Courtney Mosier put into it, was this concept of compression. How do we tell whether or not, if we've been doing flat rate for years and years and years, the difference between what a comet and a pat makes gets to be very, very close, reducing the incentive for someone to take a job because a comet job because they could make the same amount, or vice versa, excuse me. So that's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is low compression, where the difference between a comet and a pat is wide apart. And my question to council office was, how do we tell? What are the metrics that we use to tell how compressed we are? And could that give us an indication of whether we should lean towards flat or we should lean towards percentage? And Michelle, I think you distributed this list, and I was wondering if I could ask you to walk us through that. No? Okay.
No.
What? Or I could.
But that's okay. I'm just trying to find it so that I can.
Okay. This is me eating up all 5 minutes, so no one else can talk.
Pick another topic, and as long as she doesn't have to look up anything.
So this afternoon, I just quickly tried to put something together just to show where we're at currently with regards to the percentages between the comet and, as you can see, like a comet and a pat. It seems like there's a lot of concern. What I hear is that, you know, a high comet person, you know, paying person is maybe making almost as much as a pat. And as you can see, if we, right now, the current compression is at 79%. And so if you do a 3%, it's going to keep that compression the same. But if you do a flat rate, it's going to raise that to 81%, which means when you reach 1, or, you know, like a total of 1 or 100, the comets and the pats are going to be paid exactly the same. There's going to be no difference in that. So, and like I said, I just kind of threw this together just because of, you know, there's talk of the compression. So between a comet and an EXE, you can see that, you know, there is a definite, you know, difference in this kind of thing. It's if you start adding the flats and you do a flat, you know, for over several years, which council in prior years had done that, and that caused some compression. And then that's when we had to have WIS come in and do a salary evaluation, as well as the job descriptions. And so that's when we came up with the new grids back in 2021 for 2022. So we've since 2021 have stayed with a percentage moving forward, except for a few classifications that you've given a little bit of an additional flat rate to. So that's why you can see just a wee bit of some compression with regards to the comets versus the pats, and a little bit with the LTC versus the pats. Everybody else is, in my opinion, is okay. If you go with the flat,
which and I don't know how, FSG feels about that or anything. But if you go with the flat, I wouldn't do that again for at least several years. Just so that we don't get into that mess where we're going to have to do another salary review again.
Because again, last year we did the flat.
You did a flat to the comment section only.
Got it. We did a percentage.
You did a percentage, and then on top of that percentage, you gave the comment an additional flat amount.
Got it.
On the hour.
The bottom line, got it. Okay, that answered my question. Okay, thank you. Didn't that answer your question?
I don't have any further follow-up. I want to hear what other councils have to say.
I have a question about the wage compression. So when I think of wage compression, I look at a classification and the range that classification pays. Is that a fair analysis? Okay, so I guess I'm not sure. I mean, I've seen lots of salary ranges in my dealings with things. And I know that there's some overlap, right? So I guess I'm more interested in what the wage compression will do with each individual range, if that makes any sense. So is that what this tells me, this chart you gave me? Yeah, okay.
Now, this is the percentage versus the flat.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Do you understand kind of what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. So if you have, let's say for round number purposes, let's say you have 20 employees in, let's just call them numbers, level 1. You have level pay range 1. You have 20 employees in level 1. And so now if you give the flat rate raise, then that is bound, depending on where everybody falls in that range of their salary range for that level 1, it very well could put many of them very close to people at the top and skew that whole range off a lot of where they fall in the range. So that's what I'm trying to get at here. Does that make any sense to everybody else?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So this is my grids that I had, and for Comet B, for the 2026, and this is the 3%, that amount, just we're saying one person across, okay? Wait a minute, oops. So that is the total across, if you had one person in each one of these categories, that's it. And then, so then I took and divided, put all those together and divided it out and came up with, it would be a 13.8% for that whole classification right there. Don't know if I'm actually getting what you're, trying to say, but there would be if it's equal across, I mean, you're not going to have much of a compression if everybody gets the same thing across in a classification, if they get it equally.
So then let's say there's a salary range in a classification. So then do the salary ranges go up along with the percentage or the flat rate?
Yes.
They do, okay.
Yeah, everything goes up. So like those years.
The whole grid goes up.
Yeah, the whole grid goes up. So if everybody gets 3%, the whole grid goes up 3%. If we're going to do $2.28 on the hour, the whole grid goes $2.28 on the hour. So it's not just an individual classification. So that's I don't see that a lot within the classification. What I see is when the compression is between the classifications themselves.
So I think I'm with you now, but I think for me, and I'm ready to switch topics if I can, I'm interested in what it's actually going to cost. And so from what I can tell, the $2.28 an hour for everyone will be a more cost to the county than the 3%. Is that right?
Yes.
I've got that figured out. Okay. So I think this is a tough year for a lot of reasons. We just lessened the KSA ability. And so I feel funny about doing that and then going ahead and paying more, actually, at the flat rate.
Understand. Counselor Wiltz.
I guess that kind of begs the question for me of why we have this dichotomy of 3% and 228 when the world is our oyster to some extent on, we could say a flat rate of $1. We could say a percentage of 2%, or, I mean, we could do other things, I guess, and basing it a little bit on what we feel is coming in, which I know we don't have a lot of very specific information yet, but this is typically why in the past we've left it at 0 and then made the decision later, which I get is what we're trying to avoid because that makes it hard on folks doing the maths. But I don't think we have to necessarily limit ourselves to just these two numbers.
Where did the 228 come from? I don't think I know that.
What I had to do is I took a payroll report and I had to dissect it down into how many employees, how many hours, and the hourly rates. And then I had to take it and do all of this math and everything to come up with the average hourly rate. Do it, multiply that, against the percentage. And then that's how I came up with the dollar amount that would equal a 3%. So it's the equivalent.
But the numbers don't work out if you multiply it out what it's going to cost, though, right? Yeah.
No, and they won't. They never do.
Okay.
A percentage is always going to be different than the flat amount when you add it specifically to each hourly rate, or the 3% to each hourly rate.
I see a hand over waving at me here. So Councilor Henry.
Yeah, thank you. So I agree with Councilor Wilson. The world is our oyster. I think there's a few different oysters and to take a look at. And I've kind of taken this as sort of a sketch of where we can go. But I was kind of sidebarring with Councilor Hawk here, but isn't this fund dependent as well, depending on what revenues we're going to see in different funds? So there may be departments that are going to feel really stressed with this percentage point versus other. Can you maybe give me a sketch of what that, what do you think the fund impact would be?
I can't do that.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, just ballparking or just.
No,
just,
I can't.
Okay, that's fair.
Because then I would have to go back in and figure all of that out, but I don't have that in front of me. But I can get it, but it's just a different look.
It's a little more granular, but it may help us see that. I can't say that any department heads have reached out to me, but I'm aware that some department heads have started to show some concern about the funds and how this may be a bit of a challenge for them versus other departments. Thank you.
Yeah, I think employee or departments that are heavy in employees and not many other expenses will find this difficult, in my opinion.
Councilor Hawk.
Yes, I think the original question was, what is this going to cost? I think that's what I heard in that last meeting. And so it's pretty easy for us to think it would be easy until we have to really work the numbers. But what I'd like to see is, this is how many employees that we pay for out of the general fund. Okay, and then how many in the health department, all the ones that are inside the frozen levy, because we know that our increase is going to be tied to all 5 of those units inside that frozen levy. And that's where we're talking about what it's going to cost us for the raises for everybody inside the frozen levy. We know the highway department is not paid within that frozen levy. So it would only make sense, let's say if you've got 450 people that's inside that frozen levy, then you figure out what that percentage is. Now, I get it that the whole compression thing, but if we're saying we're going to give everybody a $800 1-year raise, go ahead and laugh, but
No, I
we've done
coughed.
that
I wasn't
before.
laughing.
Yeah. Or whatever it is. Then you take the 800 times however many people and you kind of get an idea of what you're going to do. Now, maybe that's where the whole compression thing causes a problem. But there's got to be some way. I mean, we're sitting here saying yes or no, and we really don't know what it's going to cost us to do yes or no. You know, the highway is not funded with property tax, but with gas tax, and et cetera. So, and normally, we don't mean to have to always do the way we've always done because, you know, it's a whole different method of doing it. But it has been in the past that if we couldn't afford to give the rest of the people a raise in county general, wherever, then we couldn't afford to give the highway raise. Or if what we could do for county general, we could give them a 3% raise, 2%, whatever it was. That's sort of what we brought along highway with as well. I'm not saying that was the right way, but, you know, but at some point or the other, we'll need to know what the dollar amount is. And I don't see it.
Okay. Councilor Iverson.
Yeah, I want to bring this back to the reason why we're discussing this tonight is because there is a budget letter from the president that goes out every single year to the departments, telling departments what to expect. That letter has not gone out yet. We are 3 months away from our first budget hearing, almost to the day. And we also know that departments are going to be looking at Form 144s and the personnel workbooks becoming available in just 3 days. So if we're going to, the reason why I think it's important to have these conversations tonight is we do need to come to some type of a consensus this evening so that the president can send that letter out to the departments, telling them what to expect as they're completing their budgets. And so there is, I think, a little bit of an urgency to come up with some type of a decision before we leave this evening.
Okay. Councilor Decker.
Thank you very much. I have heard some comments from folks that appreciate the effort to kind of get ahead of this now versus the fall, figure it out, and then we have the intense COLA debates that we've had in the past. And I kind of appreciate thinking outside the box, Madam President. When I have looked at this, and I also kind of had where's the 228 versus the 3% come from, and I understand that's an effort to try to make those on par with each other. I am worried that despite Michelle's good answer, I am worried a little bit about the flat rate getting us into some long-term compression issues that sort of manifest. I remember Margie Rice when she was working for us and not the city, just saying over and over about the WIS process, how that emerged. And I remember, my gosh, how much we spent on that, both time and treasure, to try to get it right. So the flat rate makes me a little bit cautious. Even as Michelle said, you don't want to do that then for several years. Well, it tells me that it might be doing a little bit more. I wonder on this percentage option if we were left with that, because the president does need to issue a letter and give guidance. That must happen. Mm-hmm. Having been in that role, that's got to happen because that's given her stress, them stress, and everybody else. I'm wondering if the percentage role is where we get a chance to get a little bit to some of the fruit that helps us prepare potentially for the end of this, if that percentage came down just a little bit. And if that percentage gave advice to departments to plan on that at a lower rate so that they weren't so stretched on the back end trying to figure out how they were going to cover things. And I also offer this. And so in my head, 2 to 2.5 maybe starts to do something there. And I'm just throwing that out. Beyond that, I will say this. I don't believe that because there are so many unknowns, I don't believe we'll have a number and then that ends percentage calculations, because we have had to go back to the mat for less of good reasons. And I think because so many things are unknown and the president's letter does need to go out, and we do need to not be in the past of what we've done among all the change, I throw all those out. If a smaller percentage gives departments flexibility to work within this, figure it out, nothing we do here anyway until that budget's adopted means 3, 2, 2.5 or beyond. None of it means it, because we could get into a drastic situation anyway and still be adjusting that. But the president does have to issue a letter. They've got to go figure out what they need to figure out. And that gives them the ability to do that. Come back in here and say, council, have you lost your mind? Council, you're doing a marvelous job. Council, we need to move this, that, or the other. And I kind of throw that out for some entertained thought. If that didn't interrupt.
No, that was a perfect segue to what is the will of the council? Because again, working with council staff, we just thought that this would be a good idea to do this in a different type of way. Again, whoever sits in this president's seat next year can do it completely different. But, and it's a challenge, I'll tell you that much. It's a whole lot of personalities and a whole lot of conflict, to say the least. And we're only month, almost 6 into this. So anyways, because I could say I could write a whole book or have Mr. Askins write an article about it. So that being said, again, just trying to think outside the box of what it is that we can do so we can give guidance to department heads. What is the will of this particular 7-body member right now so that we can move forward with this particular letter? Councilor Wiltz.
I would be interested in doing a percentage at or below 3%. My understanding is that it's not any easier for our office if we don't stick with what we pick, right? So no matter what we pick, if we change it at all, they still have to go back and do all the math. That is why I just always went with, let's keep it flat so that we don't, it's just easy to see what changes there are. And that was also my own convenience too. So I'm not advocating that necessarily. I'm just saying that whatever we pick, if we change it, it still makes it hasn't saved them any time. I feel that 3% is a little high. I am very concerned about our ability to do this. You hear me on almost all of these types of discussions. I'm always a little, more conservative on the spendy things. So, I think a 2.5 would be reasonable.
Okay. Councilor Wiltz has spoken, and I see the right side of me is jumping over here. So I will go with Councilor Iverson, and then I'll go down the line here.
Madam President, I would join Councilor Wiltz in a recommendation for a percentage increase. I would recommend a 3% because I believe that our staff deserves to have meaningful compensation to fight against the inflationary pressures that people are feeling every single day, whether it's the grocery store or in other areas of their lives. And I think that is a useful benchmark that we can give folks. It's really clear. And I also think that the way that we've set this up, where we're going to departments and saying, we're setting it at 3, that's the benchmark. Now let's work together with your liaisons to get your budgets in right order. I think that makes a lot of sense to me. So I join Councilor Wiltz in a percent.
Okay. Councilor Henry, did you have anything to add?
Based on the draft letter, I have no changes to that document. I would accept it as is.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Hawk.
Out of curiosity, does anyone recall what the state oh, I see a hand over there.
I received notification from the court's administrator that the judges and the prosecutor Elected officials are going to be at 0. I have not heard anything yet as of for probation officers. So I'm still waiting on that information. But the judges and prosecutor who we have tied our sheriff as well as our public defender people will receive 0 for 25 to 26 fiscal year. Wow.
That should tell us something, folks.
The other thing that I would add to that is we did hear again, we have FSG, we have a long-term finance committee meeting for, and committee members for a reason. And we did hear Mr. Garrett say at the last part of that meeting back in April that the average and what he's telling people is the 3%. I agree with Councilor Iverson that I think we've already heard and we've known that Monroe County government employees, former employees, have left to go to other places and are competitive with the city. So I think that, again, while we are still playing ping pong of guess what number we'll play today, I think I would be comfortable with doing the 3%, the 3% to just kind of go from there. So, yes, Ms. Shell.
I just want to say, in the past, we've always said a flat rate with regards to when you budget. You know, you tell everyone budget flat, budget flat. Well, when we put those numbers into LAO and we give them back to you, it does not show what our actual budget is because it's not including any COLA. If you do set a percentage now, at least you can see this might be how much it's going to cost our budget. And so, you know, to me, that's going to give you a lot better number than in the middle of budget sessions, you're looking at it and going, hey, oh, you know, hey, we've met our amount, but no, not really, because you haven't included the COLA in those amounts, which then if you include the COLA, it's going to change your perf and your FICA. So to me, putting something at the beginning, like I'm requesting you guys are talking about, I think is going to actually give you better numbers when we get into the budget sessions. My opinion, so.
And I appreciate that. Again, this is just what we're doing right now. It's not set in stone. There's no resolution, no ordinance that says that this day moving forward, this is how every single council president beyond me will continue to have to do this. This is just a way of us trying to stay ahead of the 8 ball and just trying to be a little bit more transformative in our thinking when it comes to budget cycle. Councilor Decker.
Madam President, with that in mind, I'd move that the council support President's letter with a 3% COLA to be prepared and sent so departments may begin.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any final discussion on this? Councilor Hawk.
Yes, I support us moving forward with something because staff needs it. The people out there, all the departments are sitting there and they're up against it trying to put this together. They do a lot of this work, each department. So I think we should move forward with something. I'm not sure we can do the 3%. I mean, I'd like to say 5% if we got, but at any rate, let's get some numbers together. Yep. Let's get the departments putting their requests together and see where we are on it.
Yeah. So will the letter say something about the fact of 3% initially or 3% subject to change or something like that?
It's always a propose.
Right.
Okay.
And so it's never set in stone until after we get to our last budget session.
Love it. Thank you.
Yes. So anybody watching this is not set in stone at all. This is just a proposed thing for us to give department heads to go ahead to get the ball rolling and numbers out. All right. Any other questions or comments? And I, again, just appreciate us moving forward with this. So maybe please have a do we have to do public comment? All right. Maybe.
And you can do a voice vote.
Oh, okay. All those in favor of the president's letter to go out with a proposed 3% for the 2026 budget letter signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right. So ordered. So Michelle will send that out to department heads. And again, this is where I think Council Iverson said this, and it also talks about this. We talked about this in the department head meeting last week. Is trying to work with your liaisons. We have done this before. Again, I know everybody can reach out and touch everybody's hand as much as you can, but again, we can all do, like I said, good book says we can do all good things, but I would really ask for us this particular year, if you've not heard me beg and plead enough, is to work with your department, with liaisons, and 2 liaisons really working together to make this work. Because again, we're out here fending for our lives. So with that being said, I appreciate all the questions, comments, concerns that I heard tonight from council colleagues, and looking to have any particular feedback from any department or any employee that wants to give that. So we appreciate that. We have moved along a lot this evening, and we are at the end of the meeting where we have council liaison updates and comments. And I know we got some, so I'm gonna start all the way over here to my left because I see Liz with her colored paper and highlights, and she is gonna go to town. So Councilor Fidel, take it away.
Well, as I remember, we didn't do this on the 13th.
Correct.
So I think we have like 4 weeks to summarize here, right? So a lot can happen in 4 weeks. So I'll start with my 13th report. So I'll just summarize the things that I was a part of. I won't go into a whole lot of discussion because I don't think it merits it. I just want to know people to know that we're involved in things. And I've been working with the Sophia Travis Grant Committee, Employee Services, numerous discussions about a multitude of topics there. Attended the Vote Center meeting where that was not finally passed on the 19th of May. Been involved with the Monroe County Fair Board Association at their meeting. Long-Term Finance Committee. Went to the Health Department open house. Did a downtown Bloomington meeting where they gave updates on a lot of projects they're doing downtown. I did a podcast with the 812 show.
Yes, you did.
Thank you. Attended the 50 Plus Expo event. Went to an AIC budget finance meeting conference in the last couple of weeks. DBI had a lot of updates. The most fascinating thing I found out at their last DBI meeting was this Blink microtransit opportunity. It begins June 2nd. It's free, and it's basically between 10th Street and 1st Street and Rogers in Indiana. And it's Monday through Friday, 11 to 2 and 5 to 9. This was done in an attempt to help people downtown with accessibility to restaurants and a multitude of other issues with downtown traversing. I was happy to see the Monroe County Women's Commission meeting representative here tonight, and there was some good data. I suggest people look at that meeting. For instance, in 2023, 20% living in poverty in the county, half were female. They're working on getting Juneteenth is coming up June 13th, where they'll, at the switchyard, they'll have blood pressure, A1C, and cholesterol from 2 to 9 that day. Then the last thing I participated in before the holiday was the Redevelopment Commission and the West Side TIF, the State Road 46 Corridor TIF, Fullerton Pike TIF, and the Curry Profile TIF were all updated and approved. That's mine.
Good job. You can always count on you. Now, Council Wiltz, you gotta follow that.
No, thank you. I just skip me. I don't have anything. I'm looking up Blink because I want to find out more about it.
Yes. All right. Counselor Deckard.
Thank you very much, Madam President. First, I do want to say thank you, Madam President, for all your leadership. You have a hard job here, and you do it very, very well in managing all of us and our uniqueness and strangeness. And thank you, because it's not lost on me. I also want to point out just a few things that I've been up to, taking inspiration from Counselor Feidel, trying to keep up just a wee bit to our new members who are doing such a great job. Is that in the last couple of weeks, I've been able to do a few different things. Number one, I was able to attend Mother Hubbard's Cupboard annual breakfast and to hear the tremendous work that they are doing. We have so many organizations that are fulfilling hunger needs, and Mother Hubbard's Cupboard is extremely strong in so many different ways, whether it's helping people with cooking classes, providing direct support through goods, but also through things like tool rental that folks can take advantage of. And if you don't know what Mother Hubbard's Cupboard, hardest name to pronounce, if you don't know what that is, why don't you give them a look? Because particularly for folks that are having some hunger issues, it's one of the many miracle workers out there in this community making it happen. I also had the immense pleasure to join other counselors this weekend at the dedication of the Monroe County Fire District's new station up in Washington Township. For those that have been following that discussion for some time, it is finally there, giving a lot of relief to folks in Washington Township, where we have many friends and neighbors. And I just want to compliment something. Chief Dillard and that fire district, in coordination with the other units in this county, are taking every day, it seems, a more holistic approach to the fact that if you get something happens to you or your family, God forbid, on Kirkwood, or it is out on Denver Road, your odds, your response time are better than they have ever been. And that is growth. And I always say this, the county can't continue to think about how things were in 1982. We've got folks that are demanding 82 different things to happen for them and their families. And Chief Dillard and the folks are doing such a good job. Also, this Memorial Day weekend, I was able to attend, along with other counselors, 2 tremendous services in the community. One, it's the quieter one up at Rose Hill Cemetery on Memorial Day, and it's led by the American Legion. And one thing that the commander of the Honor Guard said that I want to pass along to amplify his voice, there was a crowd there, but I think this should be heard. We have a lot of service members in this community. My rough estimate is of our 139,000 folks in the county, based on about 5.1% of them or so being veterans, according to state statistics. That's 7,106 souls that have served this country when called to do so. The commander of the Honor Guard said something very interesting. He said a lot of times at the end of life, veterans will say, oh, you know, I really shouldn't have an Honor Guard send off when I have departed. And he said something, he said, whether you're a veteran or you're a widow, know that you took the oath, that service is for you. So for all the veterans listening out there in this community, that Honor Guard's an awesome thing that we have. And that is for you. So I want to amplify the commander's voice on that. Beautiful ceremony also at Valhalla. I also want to point out one thing that can sometimes get lost. Here at the county, we have a beautiful Veterans Affairs office, 2 individuals that are always working hard to deliver results for veterans here with us. And that is Stephen Miller, Andrew Blake. If you're a veteran out there, and they come here all the time and talk to us, but if you're a veteran out there and you need help with the VA or other resources, this is a good plug-in that the county is proud to support, and I urge you to check that out. So there's a lot of good folks doing a lot of good things, a lot of heroes making things happen, and I appreciate all their hard work this post-Memorial Day weekend.
Thank you very much. All right. Counselor Henry, you ready?
Sure. Thank you, Madam President. I just want to limit my comments to some of the things we've heard tonight from public comment, and maybe put a coda on the KSA discussion. I think in our I appreciate the discussion we had on the KSAs this evening. I think the data that the staff was able to pull together in the past 2 weeks, gave me a different insight into what I was looking for. And I think that a thing that jumps out at me is when we look at departments that have frequently used KSAs as a hiring practice to bring people into the county, that's a signal to me there may be something wrong with the bands that we have, and not so much the KSAs that keep being offered. So it gives me pause when I see a department or department heads come to say, look, we really use this, but if they're using it all the time and they're hiring, we may need to really take that back to PAC once we open up the shutters on PAC and revisiting that. We shouldn't be in a case where people have to bring a KSA every time they want to hire a position. And so that has my attention, or a lot of times when they want to hire a position. So I just wanted to maybe put an end point on that discussion tonight from my seat. There are so many people to thank in the community for our tornado response that we had over this past week. I was about a quarter mile from the touchdown location, and it was not lost on me just how incredibly close. If that tornado was a quarter mile north, we wouldn't be talking about modest damage in our community. But for those families that did experience damage, it's very important, I think, for us as elected officials to keep the story in the media. The headlines are going to change very quickly in our community over the summer, but these families are going to be facing 4, 6, a year's worth of months and year worth of rebuilding. We heard from, of course, folks that own the economy in this evening. So if I become a bit of a, if I keep beating this drum every other week here, I may be doing that for the rest of the year until we know that these folks have been made whole, or whatever their new normal is going to be in our community. That's 80 properties that were affected in this way. It's not a small number. So, of course, I know I occupy the Plan Commission seat for the council, and I'll just share with you all that I have a increasing concern. I've heard a lot from homeowners in the community that were affected to make sure that our new county development ordinance does not get in the way of recovery, and that it is a tool and not an impediment. And so if there are people listening to this, which I know the whole community tunes in, if there are issues that you're experiencing in your rebuild, and if we have corners of our county government that you feel are not being as efficient about building permits and code issues, do let me know, and of course let our Plan Commission partners know that we need to make sure we rebuild as swiftly as we can within the footprints that are available, to the current footprints of those properties that were lost. I would also say that and I want to give credit to Perry Township. I spent most of that weekend off and on with Perry Township trustee Dan Combs, as we were constantly texting each other and roving around our 2 townships trying to figure out what was going on in the community. Dan and his team have really lifted a lot of people during the crisis point. And I would just say, it's something that I teach in my emergency management class, that natural hazards are not disasters. What makes disasters are human choices about where we build and how we zone and how we respond and recover to things. And for some folks who are already on township assistance that were now been displaced again and spent time in a Red Cross shelter, or now staying in other housing in the community, I do believe that we sometimes look at our townships as emergency management. They're not FEMA. They provide a very specific service to our community, and we need to, think through that in the future on how a lot of our township trustees carry this burden in a time of crisis. Lastly, I want to just make one more highlight or comment. Councilor Deckard already talked a little bit about our Monroe Fire Protection District. By the next morning, I was in Harrodsburg for their festival and was speaking with Monroe Fire District personnel, and they had already had, within 12 hours, 150 homes adjudicated in an app that they use when they go out to a property to take a look at the property and start to adjudicate the damage to it. That app was brought by Chief Dillard from Indiana Task Force 1, which is an urban search and rescue task force that he's a part of, that's FEMA funded in the state of Indiana. He had the foresight to bring the app into our county and start using that on deployment that night to capture really great data on what homes were really damaged and what ones were not damaged. That is a FEMA funded program that directly impacted our community yet again. And so again, if I become the emergency management drumbeat down here, there's a reason for it. There are a lot of really good tools that come into our community and a lot of great folks that were working that issue. But let's keep all those folks in our thoughts in the next weeks and months ahead, as this is not over for them. Thank you, Madam President.
Councilor Iverson.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, Monroe County really is a special place. Hearing from the folks that came tonight to talk so passionately about their businesses that were destroyed by the tornado reminds us all that this is a community that comes together, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work together to bring people together. One of the commissions that I attended over the past 4 weeks was the Resilience Commission, where we heard from Maggie Sullivan from the Friends of Lake Monroe about some of the efforts that they're making this summer and into the fall to make sure that our source of drinking water and recreation remains resilient in the face of climate change. We looked at the updates to
No, that looks like it's done.
the climate plan, and we added some extra items there that the county is going to be working on. I'm hearing my voice or someone calling my name right now.
I muted him.
All right, thank you. The voice of God coming down.
Also Lisa Ridge.
Or Lisa Ridge, yeah. So the Resilience Commission continue to look at their website. They're going to be updating that very quickly. The next meeting that I think want to bring to people's attention is the Substance Use Disorder Advisory Commission. We were really heartened by federal data that in the year 2024, we had a 26% drop in fatalities due to substance use disorder. That's nationwide data. But we saw that same drop here in Monroe County. But we need federal funding to make sure that we have resources from SAMHSA to continue doing the harm reduction work that we're doing. The federal cuts are not helping. They will lead to an increased number of deaths in our community as an increased number of cocktails in the form of illicit drugs come into this community. We're very concerned about that. We also convened the opioid settlement body. That group recommended that the commissioners tackle 3 different appropriations from those funds that we kind of kept from previous workings. So keep in touch with the commissioners meeting as those 3 items come up. I was also there at the Fire Protection District. This is Station 26 in Washington Township. And I'm really excited about that new station coming on board because my district includes some of those northern communities like Dolan and Hindustan that need this fire protection. And of course, this benefits folks as their insurance rates are going to be helped by having this additional fire protection up there. We're really excited by that. I want to echo my colleagues' statements that the Monroe County Fire Protection District was on top of the response during the storm. In an email sent out on the 20th of this month, Chief Dustin Dillard wrote out his initial response in how they tackled the tornado. And it was just a reminder of how our first responders were there on the scene, doing what they needed to do to keep the residents safe. Again, 0 fatalities. So we're really encouraged by that, particularly as we look to the warmer months of this year. As the potential for additional storms is in their forecast potentially. I also attended Memorial Day festivities, and I want to particularly thank Steve Miller and Andrew Blake for their services to our veterans in our community. I also want to highlight Brad Thompson. He's the head of the Civil Air Patrol. His youth came to the council to give a presentation not too long ago, and they were there doing color guard activities on that Memorial Day service. That was really meaningful to be able to talk to some of those youth again, and it was just a really great day to be out there with all of our veterans with us. And the last thing that I will mention is that it is time for folks to start calling your U.S. senators. The budget bomb that came out of the U.S. House is making significant cuts to Medicaid. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because it is personal for me. My family would not have resources to continue to be in this community if it were not for Medicaid waivers. The cuts in this bill will significantly impact people's lives. Call your senators. This is a budget bomb that will increase our debt for the next 10 years to the tunes of not millions, not billions, but trillions on the backs of the poor and the disabled. This is unconscionable, and we have to do something to stop this. Thank you.
Now I got to follow you. That's hard. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And I will say, and reflecting on tonight's conversation, there's obviously like hard decisions that we all had to make today, and there were a lot of different opinions, but I think we do those with heavy hearts because of what we have up against us right now. So I just want to say to all the colleagues, thank you very, very much for all of the debates. Even those debates that we have that are disagreements, we did some good stuff. I will tell you, it is very stressful sitting in this role as president, but I'm new to this, but I'm also true to this. Under all this beautiful extensions, there's a lot of gray hair. So, but I'm up for the challenge. So there you go. Like to hear it. Here it goes. A lot has happened over the past several weeks, but I will keep my comments somewhat brief. I will express that we learned in a tornado briefing with our emergency management. I think we heard 22 structures were destroyed, 33 were completely destroyed. This is also personal for me because I live on the south side near the Clear Creek area where it literally jumped over our neighborhood where our household saw it and then it went down the road. So while I don't know why we were spared, I can say 2 minutes down the road because I don't stay very far from Economy Inn and some of the Cardinal Glen area, they were not spared. And I just want to say that I appreciate the public comment that came in to talk very passionately. The pictures that we've seen of the post office and the damage, I've driven around in the neighborhoods and in that particular area and seen it. I just want to give also a special shout out to Perry Clear Creek Station 22 Fire Department. A fire station because they were also definitely in the thick of it. So any type of department in Monroe County that had something to do with it, also the assessor's office had to go out and assess the damage. We say thank you because those are long hours that you clocked and will continue to do so. So we definitely appreciate that. Some other things that I wanted to say, and I lost my page. Okay. Some fun things that we have that are coming up on the horizon is next Tuesday at 3:30. It's the moment that we all, maybe some, have been waiting for, and it is the groundbreaking of the convention center. That I just, former council member Jeff McKim and our beloved former council member, the late and great Cheryl Munson, worked really hard in making sure this day has come, and it will be here next Tuesday at 3:30. I will be giving some brief remarks. I believe Commissioner Julie Thomas will also be giving some remarks, as well as some of our city elected officials as well. So I'm looking forward to this day. I'm looking forward to all the headache, all the blood, sweat, and tears that will come and have come beforehand will finally pay off, and we will really see this come to light. So I'm looking forward to that. The other thing that I will vote center, I'm not even gonna go there with that. So we know what happened, and it's a shame. The other part is I was a little dismayed in hearing some conversations in one of our recent meetings, and something I heard that I didn't think that was true, that I really wanted to make sure that it has been said. I know somebody at the health board meeting had mentioned that the county is under a hiring freeze, and we are not. So I just really want to make sure that it is known that we are not under a hiring freeze. The KSA that we did today is not also a hiring freeze. These are simply tactics that the council are doing because, again, our friends up in Indianapolis on Capitol Avenue has decided to make sure that we do this. So we are trying to do this as much as we can. I guess whether we like it or not, we're doing it. But I just want to make sure that we are talking about that we don't have a hiring freeze. So I just want to make sure, because I got a couple of people that reached out and asked what was this. So to be clear, there is no hiring freeze. The other aspect is whether we like public comment, whether that's the good, the bad, the ugly with that. And if you've probably heard me say that this evening, I say that for a reason, because we know sometimes people come in and we've seen a whole play of public comment, and whether we liked it or not, in the middle of a storm, we got it. But however, we didn't, dispel that, and we didn't just, dismiss it and try to figure out a way not to stop people from coming in. That is what democracy looks like, and we should be making sure that every single person that wants to come into any type of government meeting, whether it's a board or commission, whether it's our particular meetings, will be heard. So I will never, ever, ever, somebody can come in today and say, Jennifer, I don't like your hair today, and that's fine. And, as long as we are not personally being attacked, but there are things that we've heard in public comment, and I think all of us can attest to this, where we might not know what is happening until that public comment has said it. So I appreciate public comment, and I caution anybody that wants to try to change that to think twice before you do something that you will deeply regret. So that's my comment on that. My last comment, since I love talking about governor's office so much, is the fact that I went to the Beckwith Town Hall, Lieutenant Governor Beckwith Town Hall, and it did not disappoint at all. I got exactly what I thought I was going to get, which was a lot of chaos. I personally had a conversation very briefly with the Lieutenant Governor, and as a Black individual, I just want to say I am not reasoning or siding with anybody that thinks that people that look like me are 3/5 of a person. Amen. Period. I cannot deal with that at all. I know that we've had some colleagues in the city that have said that they are very grateful for that conversation. I'm not certain what I heard that was grateful, because I also know that I didn't hear anything that basically said, this is what I'm going to do here for Monroe County. I just heard chaos, and I heard I'm doubling down. I also heard the fact that I challenged him, in addition to, his 3/5 compromise compliment, because it's definitely not a dang on compliment. I said, because I don't know if any of y'all have realized, I've not seen the Lieutenant Governor, nor have I seen the governor come down and assess the damage. And I also talked to emergency management and thought we heard anything from them. And they look at all the news and they get all the news sources. And my response that I got back is, when I asked the question of, where are you? Where were you? Are you coming? Is, I've never been invited to come down. Now, again, I know my role on here is, I'm just 4 years old on this county council, but I do know that natural disasters have happened, and I've never heard of people who are in the thick of cleanup have to stop what they're doing and go call somebody and say, can you come down? Can you go take a look? So I am not going to be the person that talks in the hot air. I'm going to say, hey, guess what? Well, consider yourself invited. So I invited him last week. I invited with an email, and I'm still have yet to hear from Mr. Beckwith or Mr. Braun. So if anybody knows and anybody looks at this meeting, please know that the invitation is out there. I will continue to follow up. Our constituents are looking for this. My constituents are looking for this. You want to talk about that you want to come down and look at things and do things together. Let's talk. Let's go to work. So I just want to just put that out there. So again, I'm not saying I'm grateful for the conversation. However, I guess I am thankful I had the courage to go up to somebody with wild beliefs to say this is what we need. So if we're gonna work together on that, let's do that and let's talk. So that's all I got to say about that. I could say a lot more, but my mom used to say, if I don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. So I'm not. So with that being said, oh yeah, one last thing is it's graduation this upcoming weekend. North and South graduates and all graduates of MCCSC. So I just want to say thank you to all the teachers that are dealing with a lot of stuff. School just ended. Graduating seniors, you are about to go out into the world and an unknown, and it's crazy. But I just want to say thank you, and I take that as a privilege because I have a graduating senior that's going to happen. So with that being said, congratulations to everybody. And with that, we did a good job with our meeting tonight. It wasn't 4 hours, and we are adjourned. Thank you.